In the heart of a distant galaxy, an old gardener quietly tends to fragile flowers beneath the watchful eyes of arrogant young warriors. They mock his faded tattoo, laughing at the relic of his past. But what they don't know is that this man carries a secret that once saved entire worlds. And before this day ends, the galaxy's most powerful general will bow to him in front of them all. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and tell us where are you watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. A twin suns over Lyra 12 braided warm light through the glass spine of the station, turning every metal strut into a quiet river of amber. Beneath that glow, in the training sector's hydroponic bay, Marin Ashfall knelt among trays of soil, like a patient moon tending tides. He was small by station standards, a human of 90 years, with steady hands and a back that had learned when to bend and when to hold. His favorite bed held a stubborn hybrid he'd grafted himself, Earth Rose crossed with Orion Starvine, a bloom that should not have existed and yet kept unfolding in slow courage. The bay hummed with vents and pumps. Boots clinked along the walkway. Marin adjusted a nutrient valve, listened to the roots, and smiled at the flower that insisted on being alive. The laugh reached him first. Sharp, bright, too loud for the gentle place. "Look at the relic gardening weeds," said Bexar, a tall, helid soldier in training whose skin threw off a sheen like brushed steel. He was flanked by Norith, an insectoid quick-talker with mirrored eyes, and Syl, a pale silver current wielder whose forearms flickered with faint static. Their uniforms were crisp. Their confidence was newer than their boots. Marin did not rise. He had learned that calm could be a shield. "It's that blurry mark," Syl asked, pointing toward Marin's rolled sleeve. "Did a child doodle a bird on you?" The lines had softened with time, but the image still held. A wing shape, not breathing fire, but scattering little points like thrown sparks, and above it, 3 tiny orbits. The old ink had a handmade honesty. Under the shape, in an old Earth script, a short line of memory curved like a quiet smile. "It is a memory," Marin said. The words were simple, but his voice carried that low gravel you hear in deep riverbeds. It slowed the laugh for a beat. "A memory of what?" Bexar pushed. "Dropping a lunch tray?" The crowd thickened the way fog gathers. Techs, clerks, a few junior officers, faces uncertain. 2 droning security drones hovered near the ceiling and pretended to examine vents. The power lines of the room were easy to read. These were prized cadets. No one wanted trouble with them. Norith's mouthparts clicked. "This is the Emperor's training ground," he said. "Marks of real service belong here." He lifted his arm to show a hovering hologram of his hive's crest spinning in regal light. "This is earned honor. Yours looks like a misprint." Bexar reached for Marin's arm, a quick, careless grip that forgot how human bones age. Marin winced. The room did not move. "Careful," he said, "stay soft." "Careful?" Bexar echoed. "Careful is for those who fear. We're learning victory." Marin lifted his eyes. They were clouded in the way of long-used glass, yet steady. He did not stare the way challengers stare. He simply looked, and for a heartbeat Bexar blinked without meaning to. On the bay's upper deck, an observer paused, fingers tightening on a slate. Commander Anvar managed the station archives and handled grayer threads of memory. His people remembered through ritual, and he had spent decades reading names no one said aloud. He had seen the Phoenix once before, hidden inside sealed data, a mark on the arm of someone recorded as gone with honors. The room's lights shifted. A soft tone rose like the beginning of a storm. Everyone knew that tone. inner circle arrival. It meant that someone aligned with the sovereign was already in the airlock. "What did you do?" Syl whispered, fear and thrill braided together. "Nothing," Marin said, because it was true. Doors opened in a measured sweep. The Imperial Honor Guard walked in 2 lines, black and brushed gold, their steps the same length, the same weight. In their center, the High Marshal of the Imperial Host, Sorin Tal, a towering being with deep crimson scales that drank the light and eyes like patient suns. Every person, no matter their shape, bowed or kneeled. Even the drones dipped and went still. Marin stood where he was. He had already bowed elsewhere long ago. Sorin crossed the bay in 3 long strides and stopped before the old gardener. Time slowed until you could hear the water tick, leaf to leaf. The marshal's hand rose with steady grace, palm to brow, and held there in a salute that belonged to very old promises. "Keeper 1, he said, voice deeper than the ventilation hum. Marin Ashfall. The bay forgot how to breathe. Bexar's fingers slid from the tattoo, as if metal had turned to dusk. Norith's wings folded tight. Syl's static died. "Sir," Marin said, because some words always fit. Up on the deck, Commander Anvar swallowed. He had guessed. He had not guessed this. Sorin lowered his arm. He turned. When he spoke, the tone was quiet, and so it carried. ... "You ask about a mark," he said to the cadets. "This is not a drawing. This is a vow." No one moved. Not the guards. Not the plants. Not the tiny drip from a leaky joint in pipe C97. The hush was the kind that puts you on a cliff and then asks if you trust the wind. "Once," the High Marshal said, "when our fleets were clever and our courage was loud, something old and hungry found a way into our maps. We threw light at it. It ate light. We hurled math at it. It learned our math. Then 3 humans and a pilot we never named took a miner's hauler, a rattletrap full of bolts and prayers, and they flew into a mouth no chart had drawn. They carried simple fire, the kind machines cannot taste. He let the detail hang like a lantern. They broke the mouth from the inside. The gate closed. We are here." Eyes crept to the Phoenix ink. The little orbits gleamed with no light at all. "Records said they were gone," Sorin added, "because politics wanted a smoother song. I read the raw report. I remember each name." He faced the cadets again. "And I recognize a disrespect that cannot stand." The hook had become a held breath, but the story did not let go. It pulled the room toward the next cliff, and no one wanted to look away. The High Marshal's presence filled the bay the way tide fills a quiet cove, slow and total. He did not shout. He also did not need to. Even the cooling fans listened. Marin stood with the same patience he used for roots, a gardener's hands, a soldier's posture hiding beneath the years. "Bexar, Norith, Syl," Sorin said, naming each cadet like a bell. "Stand." They stood. Their earlier certainty slid away like water off a pane. "Do you know who this elder is?" asked the marshal. Bexar's mouth worked. "No, High One." "Then listen," Sorin said. He paced once along the irrigation channel. A droplet fell and shattered into 1,000 tiny rounds of light. He did not look at his guards. He did not look at the crowd. He looked at soil. When he spoke, the words were measured like canopy shade. "Years ago," he said, "a storm of void-born machines burned our borders. We sent 16 species to stand that line. The more we fought, the more the dark learned. So we tried the thing that looked foolish on paper and wise in the gut. We asked for volunteers to move a hauler into open maw. The math said it was hopeless. The math was not wrong. The people were stubborn. One pilot we never named, and 3 humans with bad jokes, old scars, and good hands. They flew in. Their fuel ran down to taste. They used docking thrusters where engines failed. They lit the charge from inside the thing. The rift folded like a wrong idea. We were supposed to count stones of grief that day. Instead, we counted breath. Soren stopped. A thin smile creased his face. There and gone. The emperor then, not the sovereign now, decided the truth would twist politics. So a smooth lie was written. The hauler had no names. The saved had no debt. He lifted his head and looked straight at the 3 young ones. But I keep a different list. I carry it with me. On that list are 4 quiet titles. Keeper 1, Keeper 2, Keeper 3, and the one we let stay unnamed because he asked to be only Shadow. Syl's fingers twitched. Keeper, you said Keeper 1. I did, Soren said. A hush swelled again. It moved through the crowd and left Gooseflesh in its wake. Commander Anvar, hands trembling, tapped a priority code he had not used in a decade. He sent a tight beam to Central Command. The reply came in a single, clear line. Confirm recognition. Honor accordingly. Soren shifted his attention back to the room at law. Not the smooth song, the true thread. And as of now, open disrespect to any veteran of any world ends a career fast. His voice did not rise, yet you could feel the new rules set its stone. Bexer swallowed. The sound was small but carried. High one, we did not know. Not knowing is a route you must pull by hand, Soren said. You will come to my office at first light. You will carry spades. A flicker of humor lived there. The cadets understood. A month with the marshal would be hard and honest. He turned back to Marin. Keeper 1, I should have said this 40 years ago, he murmured, letting all titles fall away. Thank you. Marin's lips thinned in that old human way that hides a feeling so it does not spill. We did what needed doing, he said. Most days that is enough. Most days, Soren agreed. The crowd did not break at once. Respect is a muscle that takes practice. Small nods began like rain starting. A quartermaster touched her brow. A drone dipped again. A junior officer, human, saluted and held it too long. Tears surprised at his own eyes. The cadets, chastened, lowered theirs. The alarm lights faded back to soft daytime. The guard retreated by silent rows. Soren inclined his head and left the way he had come, not because pomp demanded it, but because grace did. Commander Anvar descended from the viewing deck, skirting the irrigation piping as if not to wake water. He stopped a careful distance away. Sir, he said, then corrected himself. Marin. Marin glanced up from the nutrient gauge he had already returned to. Anvar. I believed I knew stories, the archivist whispered. Turns out I was a librarian in a room with locked cabinets. We all are, sometimes, Marin said, until someone hands us a key. Anvar nodded. The sovereign will know of this. He likes to read keys. Marin chuckled. Tell him the garden prefers sunlight. Across the bay, the 3 cadets still stood, caught between shame and a hunger to be better. Lila Perez, the young tech whose hands were always a little smudged with sealant, walked over to Marin with that mix of fear and courage people get when they speak to elders. Mr. Ashfall, she said, my grandmother told me stories about a group with a birthmark that breathed starlight. She said they were rumors. I think she wanted them to be real. Marin wiped soil from his palm and leaned his elbow on the lip of the bed. They were real enough to carry splinters, he said, and real enough to be afraid. Courage is not clean. It is usually muddy. Bexar took a step forward, swallowed pride like bitter tea. I am sorry, he said, voice husky. I saw age and I assumed weakness. That is a mistake I will not carry again. Good, Marin said. Mistakes make strong compost if you turn them. Syl looked at the flower. What is this bloom called? I have not named it, Marin said. It keeps surprising me. Then name it for surprise, Norith murmured, wings clicking in thought. Marin considered. Maybe later, he said. Names should fit like worn gloves. They take time. The bay resumed its soft chores. Pumps hummed. Roots drank. A lesson sank in without announcements or drums. A man went back to his roses. 3 cadets walked away different. Late that cycle, word traveled faster than cargo elevators. The story went out, across Lyra 12, like a breeze that knows every corridor. It reached the canteen, the machine shop, the quiet chapel, where the maintenance guild hung their tools at shift's end. Somewhere in the palace, a light touched the sovereign's desk. He read a single line from Onvar and smiled, tired and bright at once. About time, he said to the empty room, and the station slept with one eye open, waiting to see what the morning would do with the truth. Morning on Lyra 12 began as a gradual hush, then a rising choir of small machine sounds. In the hydroponic bay, the air smelled soft and green. Marin came early, as he always did, because quiet had a way of telling him what to do next. Someone had left a little gift by his workbench. A folded cloth patch, hand-stitched. A small phoenix rising, 3 tiny circles above it. Underneath, in crooked letters, "Thank you for the long night." No signature. Marin set it next to his tools as if it were fragile glass. Bexar arrived on time, this time without swagger. Norith and Seal came with him. There was no guard to escort them, only intention. First lesson, Marin said, before anyone could trip on apology. We water slow, fast water runs off. They nodded. They learned how to watch a leaf and understand thirst. Syl discovered his small shocks could wake sleepy. Norith learned patience by making tiny tunnels through the soil for air. Bexar, who had built his life on lifting heavy, learned to lift lighter and be proud of that too. Lila Perez came at shift change, carrying a handheld drone she kept more out of habit than need. She sat on an overturned crate and listened while Marin showed the cadets how to pinch back a blossom to coax new growth. When he paused, she cleared her throat. "Would you tell me the real story?" she asked, voice careful. About the mark. Marin did not rush the answer. He adjusted a stem so it would not scrape the support and studied the way light touched a petal. "There were 4 of us," he said at last. "We were not chosen for being best. We were there and we said yes. One of us asked to be left out of reports on purpose. Some people prefer the work without the echo." "Were you brave?" Bexar asked, then looked like he wished he could catch the word and put it back. "We were afraid," Marin said. "We were also tired of watching maps shrink. Fear and purpose had an argument inside each of us. Purpose won by a nose." Syl smiled a little at that simple picture. Simple pictures stick. As the day strolled forward, visitors drifted in. A logistics clerk left a bottle of Old Earth tea on the bench. A bent metal badge, polished clean, appeared under the patch. A child's drawing leaned against the nutrient tank. A bird throwing stars and 4 dots holding hands. By evening, the bay held a modest new corner that had not been there at dawn. It was too well built to be spontaneous. Someone with access had worked while the station slept. A low arc of star metal anchored the floor. In its curve, a plaque waited without shine. To those who answered when maps ran out, under it, a simple line: keepers, known and quiet. The cadets found it first. They did not speak. Some silences are right. Commander Anvar arrived late, eyes warmer than before. There is one more visitor, he said, and his voice carried something that made everyone stand a little straighter. The sovereign did not arrive like a parade. Sovereign Aurel preferred understatement when the moment was heavy. He stepped into the bay with a handful of attendants, each keeping a respectful radius. His form read as a tall outline made of light that remembered faces from many worlds. He wore no crown, only the patient echo of one. Marin Ashfall, the sovereign said, and his voice came as chords in gentle agreement. I have read your report 23 times. I have watched raw footage more times than my council says is healthy. I have wanted to say thank you in person. Marin bowed the way practical men bow, just enough. High One, he said. Long ago, I feared that the truth would break the balance we had barely built. The sovereign continued, walking slowly between the beds, delight obvious at every new leaf. I thought people needed legends with smooth E. I understand now that faith is stronger when it knows about splinters. He stopped at the plaque and rested his hand above the words. As of today, the seal is lifted, he said. The galaxy may reap a whole thread. Let them learn that hope can ride inside a creaking ship. The bay did not cheer. It did something better. It exhaled in relief. Leela wiped at her eye and laughed at herself. Sorry, she said. Humidity. Not sorry, Marin said. Water is water. The sovereign turned back to him. There is another thing, he said carefully. My time grows short in the way my kind understands time. Before it ends, I wanted to look at these flowers and tell you that you gave us more than a closed rift. You gave us a story that keeps people standing. Marin's smile was small and true. I accept that, he said, and I will keep planting so the story has some. That night, crew from every deck wandered through on break, each leaving a token, a training pin, a wrench engraved with initials, a small string of beads. The corner became a living memorial, not a museum piece. You could smell compost and tea. You could hear jokes and low talk about real things. When shifts changed, someone always watered. The garden felt heavier, but in the way of a shoulder with a friend's head on it. Burden and blessing at the same time. And above the bay, stars kept their slow, silent work, pretending they were not listening. Months turned like pages. The changes were small and steady. The training hall added a class called True History. It was full. A new school formed on Lyra 12's second ring, not for elite fighters, but for the brave kind of ordinary. The Dragonhearth Institute, named by a vote from the cooks, which felt right. Lessons covered maps and engines, but also how to listen, how to apologize, how to stand for someone else. Marin still gardened at dawn. Bexer, Norith, and Syl graduated a year late by choice and wore simpler marks than before. Small phoenix pins carved in bone. When asked, they said, "It is a reminder to act with heart." Leela started weekend gatherings called the Maker's Hour, where veterans from different worlds told stories with all the edges left on. Some stories were messy, some were awkward. All of them ended with a small truth you could carry in a pocket. The memorial corner grew by habit, not plan. A mechanic from Deck 5 welded a trio of low hoops above the plaque. The hoops hung 3 tiny orbits that turned just fast enough to catch the bay's light. A baker from the galley brought sweet bread once a week and left it with a note. Eat while you remember. Memory needs sugar. The sovereign's last months passed like the low tide before a long swim. He came twice more to the garden, just to stand and breathe. The day he returned to the quiet light, his kind calls home, Lyra 12 dimmed its lamps for a single minute. In that minute, No one spoke. The station made a sound like wind through a distant field. A message from the frontier came as the lamps brightened again. A colony ship met something not in any handbook. The crew described shapes that drank gravity and gave it back as confusion. They were safe for now. They wanted counsel from Keeper One, if he would answer. Marin looked at the little drone Lila kept on the bench and touched the screen the way you touch a sleeping child's back. It woke with a curious chirp. "Get me old friends," he said. "The ones who have more scars than medals." Within an hour, a room just off the bay filled with voices he knew. Some he had not heard in years. Mara Dawn, a pilot who had once landed a shuttle with 2 engines asleep. Jaron Pola, an engineer who could make power out of a loose bolt and hope. Priest Medic Amir, who understood both blood and silence. On a shared channel, 2 names blinked in. Nico Abel, a math teacher on Earth who used to fly in ugly weather, and Samuel Cho, a cook who had learned tactics by managing kitchens during storms. There were more. Age had not closed their doors. It had, if anything, left them more open. They did not rush to plan. They asked questions first, a habit built by hard days. What do you see? What do you hear? What can you still measure? Where does fear sit in your crew? What small thing still works? Answers came in careful lines. They built a picture not of enemies, but of problems that could be solved in order, with patience. "We will send ships," Jaren said. "But first, we will send ideas. Those travel faster. And we will send voices," Amir added. "Calm is a bridge." They wrote a short council packet. "Slow the ship. Talk kindly to each other. Name the smallest true thing you can see. Anchor to it. Then move to the next true thing." They added a diagram for a simple field made from tools every ship carried, but almost never used. It would not destroy whatever the frontier crew had found. It would make thinking easier. Sometimes that is enough. Marin added a personal line at the end. It read, "You are not alone. Act where your hands reach. We are on the way." The packet left Lyra 12 like a quiet sparrow. It arrived like spring. News flickered back. The field worked enough to keep panic out. The enemy, if it could be called that, drifted like fog when the crew spoke gently and moved slowly. Naming true little things helped the mind stand upright. The ship found a path around the unknown and kept going. No victory song blared. No flags waved. There was tea and a nap and a plan to send a gift of seeds. That evening, the hydroponic bay stood still in the way gardens do when something new is about to happen. Bexer had stayed late to mend a trellis. Norith strung delicate thread between 2 poles so climbing vines would find a way. Syl tuned the grow lamps until the leaves sighed. Lila rushed in, hair caught in its own weather, holding a small pot that shook in her hands. "It sprouted," she said, laughing, crying, both. "From the cross you made last year. It shouldn't work, but it did." Inside the pot, a tiny shoot lifted a green flag. At its tip, a bud the size of a tear glowed with a shy light. The room leaned close without meaning to. "We have to name it," Lila whispered, as if loud words could break it. "Names take time," Marin said out of habit, then looked at the pot and felt the stitch of the moment. "But this one already told me." He touched the rim with one finger. "Phoenix's promise," he said. "Not the old story, the next one." The name fit like a worn glove. The memorial corner gathered them without being asked. Someone brought the sweet bread. Someone brewed that old tea. They ate standing, smiling with their mouths full, the way friends do. Later, when the bay was almost empty and the lamps had settled into their night hum, Marin sat on the bench he liked best. Soren Tal joined him without armor, a cup of tea in his large hand, the steam curling like small questions. "Will you take the full treatment now?" Soren asked, meaning the medicine that could rinse the fog from old eyes and give a few sturdy years back. Marin looked at his hands, at the lines there, at the little callus the trowel always left. "I think I will take just enough to keep moving," he said, "not to pretend I am young, only to lift one more tray of seedlings and show a few more children how to tuck roots in." "The frontier will call again," Soren said. "Good," Marin answered. "We will answer again." Sometimes old help is exactly the right shape. They sat together while the plants breathed, and the station carried its many lives through another gentle night. Somewhere beyond sight, the sovereign's chosen successor looked over a list of things worth tending and put the memorial garden near the top. Somewhere out on the long road, the colony ship passed a jar of earth soil hand to hand, like a small, good secret. Marin watched the new bud, that little ember with its own mind. He thought of days when maps ended and people walked anyway. He thought of all the small kindnesses that had stitched the station into a kind of family. He thought of the call from the frontier and how the right words at the right time can be a ladder. "We go because the work needs doing," he whispered, "not for drama, but for practice, the way you practice breathing. We stand because standing helps others stand. We remember because memory keeps the path clear." The bud opened a fraction more, just enough to show a glint, like a star caught in a drop of dew. No trumpet called the end. No banner fell. Only a garden in a station under two suns, full of people who had decided that impossible is just a word you say right before you try. And that, in the quiet language of roots and hands, was the kind of victory that lasts.